Stanford at number 17 Clemson, a rivalry unlike any other. Clemson is a 21.5-point favorite. Saturday, 7 p.m., ESPN, little prime time action. The weather should be gone by Saturday. I'm sure the Clemson grounds crew is going to be working because that's grass, and it is already raining here in the upstate. It's going to be raining. This game's interesting, Mac. You've got poor Stanford, who impressed us a lot last Friday night at Syracuse. They fly back across the continent. I'm not even saying country anymore. I'm saying continent. They fly back across the continent. Then they fly back across the continent to come to Clemson. So how does that affect them, Mac? I don't know. We've never really seen a team do this. But I have been impressed with Stanford so far. The TCU game, of course, they lost that one early, but they looked really good against Syracuse. Their defense impressed me a lot, Mac. They're only giving up 50 rushing yards per game. They haven't played the greatest rushing attacks, but that's impressive. Now, they are dead last in pass defense, so we can talk about that. Where is Clemson? I think a lot of this comes down, I want to say some good things about Stanford, and I feel like Stanford's a pretty good team. I think this team could definitely make a bowl. Where is Clemson? Is Clemson still, can they just blow them out of the water like they did at NC State? Or is this going to be a little more of a fight?
Well, I think there is something to that travel, and I think that kicks in a little bit. Just going across the country back to back, and I know some people don't want to hear that. Whatever. What's that?
It's unfair. It's unfair.
Yeah, it does. Stink. It does stink that they have to do that, and the fact that you're playing here at a night game. God bless you. Good luck. We'll see. It's going to be jacked up. Welcome to the ACC. You had two loud environments back to back, and again, you won. It was a great game. It was a fun game. An emotional game, but this is a little bit of a different animal when you walk in here, and it's good for them. I mean, it's exciting. Welcome to the league. You got to play the best of the best. You did in the Pac-12. You saw those different environments and things that you had to deal with out here, and this is going to be the same thing. I do, and again, I guess we do need more of a sample size. Like, it's so easy to jump back right in, right?
Yeah.
With Clemson. I mean, we've talked about it for years about how good this team was and the things that they would just do. And even when that NC State line came out, KG, we were like, huh? What? That is huge. What are you talking about? And then they blow it out of the water.
They low-key almost let NC State backdoor cover, but whatever.
Backdoor, which would have been insane. But, it just feels like Clemson is right there to those type of days and those type of things because of the way that they're executing, the way that they are scoring, the way that this offense is wide open, and the offensive line. Can I just say something real quick? Can I do a quick TV timeout? I posted that video, KG, because guess what? Nobody cares about the offensive line. So I'm telling y'all, here's the three things that are really good. Now, I know, who are you talking to? I know the offensive line's playing their tail off, but the amount of people, Kelly, when I posted that video that commented, Matt Luke or the offensive line, it was probably 100 people. And I was so excited to see that because y'all know what you're talking about. My heart was full. It still is full. The offensive line's been playing out of their mind. So I think all of those things kind of coming together are really the reason these last two games that you've seen it. And obviously we would have loved to see it in game one in Georgia, but, best team in the country at the time and the things that they're doing, they found their way and excited to see it and can't wait. And hopefully we get to see something of that magnitude, down the road. The piece that I need to see is this defense to play for 60 minutes. We have not seen that. We've seen 3 really good halves of football, and then the wheels fall off. And literally, the wheels fall off. And so you've got to play a complete game. Obviously, the things that, Ashton Daniels is going to do as a running quarterback, can throw it, get out in space, get it to Alec Aomanor. Like, you've got to pay attention, to all of that. And you have to play sound defense. And just, can you play inspired ball for 60 minutes and take care of business? But with all that said, I have no worries about Clemson in this game. I think that they continue to flex their muscles and show people that, that this isn't, the Clemson of the last 3 years.
Mac, I love that your main, advice for the Clemson defense is pay attention, because
just literally pay attention. Just pay attention.
That's kind of what it's felt like, especially the second and third units. I know that a lot of guys have gotten a lot of playing time once the games have been out of hand, but I'm going to still say I think the Clemson defense remains a bit sus, okay? And we need to see it against this team where their offense has looked pretty good. I'm excited to see how the defense can look against this team. And, Mac, Clemson is tied for last in the ACC with only 4 sacks on the season. They haven't really wreaked havoc Only 4. Now, Ashton Daniels, of course, he's mobile. They're going to use him in the running game as well. But let's see if this Clemson defense can step up a little bit in this game, an offense that looked pretty good against Syracuse. And look, Alec Iamaner is a baller, the big wide receiver for Stanford. Yeah. So those corners are going to have to be ready because that guy can flat out play. That OBJ catch at Syracuse was ridiculous. So,
and he's a big guy. Like he's huge. It's kind of like, honestly, when you played Wake Forest a couple of years ago and they just had those basketball players out there. And which, by the way, Clemson got housed by them. They won the game, but I mean, that was a crazy looking, just attack because there was nothing that, they could really do. So, really when you look at Stanford, they have 2 guys that you have to pay attention to that have, 19 and 17 catches. Then it falls off, then it plummets down to single digits. So know where those guys are, understand, pay attention, do your job, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Mac, before we leave this game, what's the key for Stanford? Again, we're an ACC podcast, and Stanford, one of us. Now, I think, if you can force some turnovers, which Clemson's been really good, taking care of the ball, and that's obviously was an issue last year. But it really, I think, comes down to the Stanford offense. Can you run it a bit on this team? Can that be an issue? And I think, too, Clemson, Mac, correct me if I'm wrong, because you played, but like the last 2 games, Clemson's gotten off to such a quick start. It's like the second half hasn't really mattered. Right. If Stanford can make this much more of a 4-quarter game, I think that will challenge Clemson a bit because they haven't had to play and really, like you said, focus in the 4th quarter all season because Georgia was over. So that's something to keep in mind. Sorry. That was harsh.
It is.
But it's true.
You're like on total opposite ends of no focus.
There's been the 4th quarter hasn't mattered.
There has not been a competitive 4th quarter. You're right. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's something that eventually will happen, you hope, or maybe. And you've got to be ready for it. I think on the Stanford side, though, like Ashton is the key. Your quarterback is the key. How can he move around? Historically, moving and active quarterbacks have hurt Clemson, especially when it's not like a traditional triple option, like a guy that can just get loose, break, contain, and see you later. You're in man coverage or guys are downfield, and this guy's just running, with all the kinds of daylight in front of him. So that'll be important, for sure. Again, Ashton is their leading rusher. Things that you just have to look at and just make sure you're doing your job. Like everybody has a role, do your job, and make it happen. So that's what I would try to do. And then, kind of similar if you can. I mean, again, I think this Clemson defense is good. They just haven't been good for 60 minutes. Can you play keep away? Like, are you able to establish drives, slow down the game, make it frustrating? Again, a Clemson team, as you mentioned, scoring very quickly, getting out, running, scoring. Like, if you don't give them reps, if you don't give them the opportunity for that, can you hold on to the ball? But that's hard to do. It really is. And it's not what you typically do. So we'll see. And honestly, you can get the fans frustrated too, which is really interesting when you can kind of change and kind of take the life away out of that environment.
Which is what Stanford did at Syracuse. That's definitely what they did.
Right.
Keep an eye for Stanford, by the way. Tiger Bachmeier leads the nation with 34 yards per punt return average. So keep an eye on that guy. His name's Tiger. That would just be hilarious if Tiger has a great game against the Tigers. Mac, are you taking Clemson to cover?
I think so. I think that's kind of where this offense is, where it excites me the most. So I am. I'm taking them to cover. Do it. Be a tree. Be a tree. Do it.
I'm going to take Stanford to cover. I think 21.5 is a lot. I don't see Clemson doing this again. We'll see. Maybe that is maybe
you got to do it 3 times.
I also like the Stanford team. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I also
do you like
Troy
them
Taylor.
or Virginia more? Who do you like more?
I just love these little nerd schools. They're just my teams, I root for them. I root for both of them.
You little nerds.
As a fellow nerd.